Okay, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to the Tour du Monde, stage 11, the penultimate stage, and this I believe will be the one that sorts out the general classification in terms of the overall. We've got Mount Fuji today, which is the Queen stage, 33.4 kilometers, of which 28 kilometers you can see from the profile here, all uphill. So it's an uphill from about 5 kilometers in, and it doesn't ease off until we get to the summit of Mount Fuji. It's going to be an exciting stage, I feel, because there's everything to play for, and we may well see some team tactics coming into it. It's interesting on the GC in as much as Henrik Maad is leading by 2 minutes and 2 seconds, give or take. Yeah, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, as you can see from the graphic on screen, from John Beams. And I think it's fair to say that they're the only two that are going to win this tour. So it's between the two of them. Can John Beams pull back 2 minutes? I think it's a very, very tough act. They're both teammates from the same team, so let's hope they battle it out, but I think it's going to be pretty difficult to pull back 2 minutes. We'll see how we go. Now, an earlier running of this event at 7 o'clock this morning saw Jonty Williamson post a 1:34.55. Now that's not going to stand. I think with these heavyweights duking it out, we're going to see that beaten. But that's a very fast time from Jonty. He's an ex-rower, so a lightweight, and it may well stand, who knows, but somehow I think that these guys pushing each other along will break it. There's Nick giving us a wave. Hi Nick. Now Nick's got the sprinters jersey, and I think we've got one more sprinter stage tomorrow, have we? Or sprinters point, not really a sprinter stage, but sprint points available tomorrow. So the sprint competition will probably go right down to the wire. But the action today is all about the mountains, all about climbing, and we've got 96 riders now online, which is great. The action's about to kick off, and I think it's going to be fast and furious for this first 5 kilometers. So, and then you're going to see riders trying to vie for the front positions once we hit the hill. You can see the hill is just constant red. There is no respite whatsoever. There's no easier sections to recover. It's all red or deep orange. So there's not going to be any recovery once they get into the climb proper. This is the rider's only chance to have a little bit of, shall we say, spin in the legs before we get into the mountain itself. Ben Phillips on screen. I think this is the first time we've seen Ben in the Zoom room. Nice to see you, Ben. And we've got 9 riders in the Zoom room today. So that's exciting. You can see Ben here at the front from Rasio. Now there could be some team tactics here. We've got Clive, as you can see. Daniel's a regular. Daniel, we've seen him a few times. Henrik Maad, consummate professional and looking cool as ever. Anders Johnson, we've already mentioned Ben. You've got Franco Eicher, he looks cool. John Beams, looking really nice in his SIS jersey, obviously chewing on some kind of energy product at the moment, so he's taking it easy, getting the fuel in before we start the climbing. And then of course Nick with the big low cadence big gear. I love to see these zoom cameras, and as we get further into the action, I think you're going to see a bit of suffering on these faces. But you know, they've got a nice start. They couldn't ask for a better start to a stage here. we're going to have riders, as we're seeing, pushing off the front like this, but it is all going to more or less stay together for all the contenders, all the heavyweights. You can see riders dropping off the back just because of the speed that these riders are going at. These riders here, look, and it's surprised to see Sorensen and Neugebauer actually dropped away from the main peloton. They may well get back on. Certainly, when we hit the climb, that's an opportunity to get back on. But I don't know. I think team tactics really may play a part, but I don't feel they will today. I think this is more of a individual effort type race because the climbing is just constant and there's no sort of like going into a green zone to recover and then going again. So team tactics really, I can't see it playing out. I genuinely believe this is going to be down to every man, and the strongest man is going to win. Now, like I say, Henrik and John Beams are both from pedalers, so we're definitely going to have pedalers taking the overall. I think I can safely say that. I can't see the third place rider who's more than 7 minutes back overhauling that time on riders the class of Henrik. So but there's everything to play for lower down the order, and as well as combativity prizes, obviously. Putting in a good show will set them up for future tours. Yeah, Paul Nichols is right here. Let the suffering commence. Well, they've got another couple of kilometres, Paul, before they get into the hill. But yeah, it's going to be brutal. And I expect them to knock 7 bells out of each other. They're going to be really going into the red here. Not just the red of the profile, but the red themselves. And John Beams has got it right here. Pain cave time. This is going to hurt. There's no two ways about it. You can't do a stage like this without a lot of pain. And I think it's going to be a fantastic race. I really do. I'm looking forward to it when the action kicks off, and we're not going to really be able to call a winner until we get well into the climb. John Beams is just reminding me that yes, now what John did was he signed up for Team 3R because they were short on riders, so he wanted to help them make up a team. So although his team is pedalers, he's actually riding for Team 3R. So Henrik, could well want to take pedalers into the GC on the top of the podium. Casper is hoping to get his first place back later. Now Casper's going to ride later, which is a bit of a surprise really, because you would have thought Casper would have wanted to duke it out with the main contenders here in this edition. But I'm not going to question his tactics. I just think he would have probably set a faster time had he gone with these riders here, but I don't know that. As I say, the riders pushing off the front like this are the big heavy men, trying to get a little bit of distance, like McCollum here, trying to get a bit of distance before we hit the climbs, because they know they're not going to be able to compete with the lightweights or the true climbers, or even the power riders. I mean, John Beams, I'm loath to call him a true climber, though he's improved his climbing beyond all recognition over this tour. But John is more of a power rider who's turned into a very good climber, but he's not a pure out-and-out climber. So yeah, the pure climbers today are going to shine, I believe. But then you've got all-round climbers like John and Henrik and Peter Brook-Ravel. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Nice to see Franco from Moon Riders up at the front here, and he's in the pain room, so we'll get a chance to have a look at him suffering a bit later. He looks okay at the moment, breathing a little bit heavy, but Yeah, he's obviously trying to keep near the front so that when we hit the hill, but there's so much time once we start the climb. There's so much time for riders to settle in. It's not a case of who's got the lead early on, because I think the lead will switch in this stage. But we always know that Henrik Mard is the kind of rider and kind of climber that if they let him have a gap, they'll probably not see him again. He'll probably take it all the way to the finish. So my guess is that riders like Samut and some of the other riders will want to keep an eye on him, will not want to let him have too big a gap going into the start of the climb. Probably keep an eye on him. And certainly John will want to keep an eye on him if he stands any chance of overhauling the 2 minutes. I think it's a tough act, tough axe, but we'll see. Daniel's already wiping away the sweat, so yeah, he'll be working hard. But we're on the climb now. The riders have hit the climb. You can just see it turning red, look, in the top left hand corner, the little icon saying 6.2%. So we know we're into the climb now, and that's it, folks. We don't go back into the green now. We do have a little bit of orange, not much, and it's deep orange at that. So we're going to stay with the climbing now. There's no respite. Henrik, yeah, looking serious, isn't he? But still looking very calm. That lovely high cadence, although this is actually slower than we're used to seeing him. He's in the 80s now, but just looks so comfortable. I'm sure he won't be when we get 2/3 of the way up this climb, but and it's nice to see the OTR boys. We've got 3 OTR boys that I spotted there all together. As we see Henrik getting out of the saddle, I think he's Nick is already out of the saddle, as you can see, pushing his big gear around. John Beams, nice decent high cadence, steady on the bike. He'll just be wanting to settle in, and that's the key for this early part of the climb. Settle into your rhythm and just hope that it's enough to keep you near the front of the pack. I think we're going to see this climb well strung out. Not in the early part, but certainly as we get into the stage, there's going to be riders all over the road, and you can see they're tightly packed at the moment. At the start of the climb, it's 7.6%. You can see all the white dots in the graphic, but that's very quickly going to change. They're going to spread out, because riders will settle into their own paces, and just because they're lower down the order doesn't mean that that's where they're going to stay. I know from my own climbing on a bike, you can often settle into a climb, not feel great, and then 30 minutes later you suddenly find your legs and you're off, you're spinning and you're off, and away you go up the climb and you start to pull back places. Now we could see that, or we could see the opposite. We could see riders that just don't have legs, and they make an early surge and then fall away. And I think we're going to see both. We're going to see both in this stage. Riders that push too hard initially and fall back, and riders that don't push, well, I won't say don't push hard enough, but riders that are saving themselves so that they've got more left towards the latter half. John settles in. What is he? Is he in second place? Yeah, he's settled into second place here. So, and yeah, he looks comfortable. You can never Oh, really? We did see him in one of the earlier stages. He's giving me the thumbs up, so he's obviously listening to me. But we did see him in one of the earlier stages where he pulled back quite a big gap, and he was absolutely gasping. Now I expect we might see that in this stage towards the top, because we know both Henrik and John will be giving it 110%. And Henrik is content to just sit back in at the moment. He doesn't have anything to prove. He's got 2 minutes. I mean, for him to lose that kind of distance, it's going to take supreme efforts by the other riders. So he's the one with the clear advantage, and he's proving that by just sitting back and letting the other riders do the work at the front. Looking further back down the field, we're going to, like I say, we're going to see riders all over the road as we watch. Is it Kristin Edge from Poco, Mr. Canoe? Yeah, we're going to see riders all over the road, and we're going to see a lot of time difference between the leaders and these riders in the middle of the pack. This is probably going to be quite a long broadcast for myself and ZMS today. I'd expect to be hanging around for quite a while, waiting for the riders further down the field to come in. Now the front riders, as I say, we have Jonty Williamson leading with a 1:34.55, so a 1:35 time. That may stand, but I don't think so. I think the fact that these riders are going to be battling it out. Yeah, I've already mentioned this, Paul, many times. Nick Greenhow, how he can push that up the mountains is just incredible. I mean, he's a true time trialist. This is what you get. Another rider similar to Nick is Doug Hart, my friend, and he would probably be pushing a huge gear as well. But yeah, time trialists tend to do that. They tend to push bigger gears because they find it easier to go over the top of the stroke when pushing bigger gears. I'm a very lightweight rider, but I push big gears usually because I find it easier. Here's Henrik, and he is staying up front with John. And if I'm honest, you can see now that these riders have already got 1, 2 and 3. Henrik, who's that with them? Is that John Beams, Henrik Marden? I can't quite see. Is it Snaver that's with them, or is it another? I can't see the third rider. It is Snaver. So we've got these 3 riders, and they've got a 80 meter gap. Now, this climb is more than long enough for riders to pull them back. But I don't know. The pace these riders are going at, the gap is growing slightly. I'm not going to call it at this early stage. It's way too early. But this is a big gap for these riders to have so early into the stage. And so I'm loving this though. This is fantastic action from these 3 riders. Yep, Snaver, that's the one. Solid rider. Look at his heart rate, folks. 174.5. So he's definitely feeling the effort here. 330 watts, 400 watts. So yeah, you can see him going into the red here along with Henrik. He's definitely towards the top end of what he's comfortable with here, just underneath threshold. So it'll be interesting to see how long he can keep this going. John is looking incredibly strong, I have to say. He's looking smooth and he's looking incredibly strong. 160 heart rate, so he's got lots in reserve. I don't know what his maximum is, but I've seen him much higher than this at this stage in races. So yeah, I'd expect John to settle in, bring his heart rate under control, and Henrik, you can see, has got his heart rate is even lower, and Daniel Shock now 100 meters behind. They've pulled out a big gap very, very quickly here. It's yeah, I'm loath to say that this is a winning break, but it possibly is, even this early into the race, because the gap is growing by every pedal stroke. Daniel giving us a wave. Well done, Daniel. So, news on the other front. I had my COVID booster yesterday, and it's really knocked me back. I'm sniffling, I'm aching all over. Certainly my arm where they stuck the needle in is very painful. And I'm hoping to make it to the end of this broadcast without coughing and spluttering. And I was planning on riding tomorrow, folks, in the final stage, because I want to take part in the prize draw. There's Franco giving us a thumbs up. Yeah, I was planning on riding tomorrow in the final stage so that I could put myself into the prize draw. With this COVID booster, who knows? Will I make it? You'll have to wait till tomorrow to find out. I'll have to wait till tomorrow, because if I feel like I feel now, then the answer is no. But they do say that the booster usually affects you for about 24 to 48 hours, and I had it on Friday morning, so let's wait and see. I might be feeling better tomorrow. Anyway, back to the racing, and you can see that now it's two riders, John and Henrik. So we're basically seeing the race play out as I expected, but not this early. I have to say, I didn't expect the two riders to be battling it out so early in the stage. I thought maybe they would stay with the main group and then see how it went. I think, Paul, if it was me, I'd be riding at heart rate. I really would. But I'm from the old school. When I used to coach, power meters were just about becoming standard and popular. Well, not really standard, but they were becoming popular. But I trained mostly my riders on heart rate, and so it's a metric that I'm very, very used to, and that's why I can call out riders basically from watching the heart rate and watching what it's doing. I'm very experienced with that metric. Not so much with power, but it's not. I mean, power's power. It's not difficult to. It's not a difficult metric to commentate on, because anybody that's been a coach, anybody that's worked with riders will know the power statistics, and certainly of top riders and the professionals as well, and what a rider is capable of outputting, what's a fair number and what's a number which you're not going to see from an amateur. So yeah, I tend to think it's going to be heart rate, but it all depends what the riders are comfortable with. If you ride to power, power over a stage like this is going to fluctuate, whereas heart rate, yeah, you can ride at heart rate and just see how it matches your power. But an interesting question nevertheless. Yeah. Let's watch Daniel Neugebauer getting out of the saddle. Look, Now he's pushing what we call a mid cadence here. He's not pushing, he's not grinding, but he's not spinning either. So he's in the mid range in terms of cadence. Probably 70s and 80s, so mid 70s, mid 80s from the look of him. And there's a key dynamic for you folks. Try and find a cadence that works for you. Never mind what anybody else is doing. During the Armstrong era, everybody wanted to be doing high cadence because he was. And for some riders, it just never worked. It never felt good. And I'm talking professionals here, not amateurs. But a lot of amateurs jumped on the wagon and tried to go the high cadence route. I did myself, I have to admit. I was a bit of a Lance Armstrong fan in them days, and I tried to jump on the bandwagon, and it just didn't work for me. And there were a lot of riders, including a lot of professionals, that it never worked for as well. I mean, my favourite rider in terms of watching him on a stage was Jan Ullrich, because he was a real diesel engine, could go forever at a nice low mid cadence. But as we watch Franco taking a banana, so he's making sure that the energy is going in. We've already seen John prior to the stage feeding himself, but I've no doubt he's probably got something in one of his bottles that will help him not only hydrate, but a bit of energy drink as well. On this kind of a stage, you have to take something in. You're going to be burning an awful lot of calories. There you go, look. John's showing me. So yeah, you're going to be burning an awful lot of calories, and you've got to keep it going in. But this is the first time I've seen Henrik working like this. So he's obviously up for this stage. Look at him, out of the saddle. Still that lovely high cadence, but he's blowing. Look at him blowing here. He's trying to keep it in control, but he is blowing. So Henrik is feeling this, and the question is going to be, can John push him? Can John break him? This for me is a fantastic battle, folks, because it is between these two. There's nobody else in it now, both for the overall and for this stage. And the question is simply, can John break Henrik? So what do you think? Please message us in the comments. I mean, you can go on Facebook, you can go on to the Facebook website, find the ZMS live stream and leave us a message, leave us a Facebook message, tell us what you think. I mean, we're only, what, a quarter into the stage now, just a little bit more, and these two are together. So let's have your thoughts. What's going to happen here? Is John going to be able to break Henrik, or is Henrik saving his powder and going to be able to go at the death like we've seen him do on quite a few occasions? Now, we're not going to forget about the other riders. They're obviously going to be battling it out amongst themselves, and we'll return to those battles throughout this broadcast. But you have to agree with me, the real excitement is between these two riders and how it's going to play out. As we watch Henrik wiping away the sweat, he's definitely feeling this. Definitely getting hot because he's stripped off. Now Schaefer's leading them out on the frontier along with Linden and Janssens. Now the 250 metres behind, and at this early stage, you know, you'd be a fool to say, well, they're not going to close the gap, because like I say, riders can and do quite often find the legs after they've settled in. And the rider, the class of James Melville as well, who was last year's winner of this tour, I'd never discount James from sort of like having a push when his legs start to feel good. And he's got some good riders here with him. So never say never. And already you can see they've pulled back a few metres. So this will be, it's 278 now. This will be worth keeping an eye on to see whether they do pull back some of those metres on Henrik and John. I think it's going to be a fantastic battle. I haven't counted out this group yet. I must admit I don't see John and Henrik being caught, but you never know, because as I say, riders can suddenly get a new lease of life. They can suddenly feel a boost and surge of energy. And you've got some good riders in this group as well. But already, as you can see from the graphic, we've got the 95 riders now all over the road. I mean, how many we got in this group? 3, 6, 9, 12. We've got about 15 in this group. You've got the 2 up front, but then there's a good old distance to riders behind, and they're split all over the road. So this may well end up being the largest group on the road at the moment, these 15 riders, because further back, and even this is splitting up. Even you can see Franco here pulling along Shapers and possibly causing a bit of a split in this group, because they are pushing the pace up and trying to claw back some of the distance, which they're not doing, by the way. The distance is growing, the gap is growing. But there's lots and lots of time yet on this climb, and the steeper sections are certainly up ahead as well. Although the nice thing about the Mount Fuji climb, I've never done it in real life, but I have done it virtually, is that it's not overly steep in terms of sections, but it is constant. So it never goes silly steep like we're going to get tomorrow in tomorrow's stage. I mean, tomorrow is, I think, down as a hilly stage, but it's brutal. It's I don't think it's going to have any effect on the overall. I think the overall is going to be settled today, but tomorrow's stage will certainly be interesting on a few fronts, not least of all Nick Greenhouse and the sprinters competition, because I believe there are sprinters points available tomorrow. As we watch Anne Y, now we've covered Anne quite a lot over the last few tours, but Anne here putting in a good performance in terms of her climbing. We know she's a good climber, and she's not back in Lantern Rouge spot, so that will be a big sort of, shall we say, carrot for her to chase the lads in front, because she will have a slight advantage on some of these uphills, being a lightweight rider. Now we haven't got too much distance between the front and back riders at this moment in time, but I do feel that by the end of the stage there's going to be a lot of distance between the front runners and the tail enders. So we are going to be hanging around on the broadcast waiting for the riders to come in. So lots of opportunity to look back on the stage and chat about what's transpired. But there's Nick in the picture, as you can see, with Sondergaard. And Nick's been, you know, he's an out and out sprinter, but he's certainly impressed me on the climbing stages. He's never been far off, and for a big lad and a sprinter, that's a really nice performance. And don't forget, this is how John Beams started out, or at least how I saw John Beams starting out on the RGT platform when I covered him during the Tour de Alps. I mean, I would have classed John as a big sort of like Nick Greenhouse type of rider, yes, a power rider, but more suited to the flat and rolling stages. But through the Tour de Alps, which he ended up taking, he improved his climbing, but now it's gone up to another level. I mean, he's here at the front of this stage on a true climbing stage with Henrik, and looks every bit as strong as Henrik. So, but you never. The thing about watching these two riders, and I have watched them both closely over the stages, you never really know whether one or both of the riders are sort of like tempering their efforts. I mean, yes, when we switch to the pain cams and you see them, I mean, like when we saw closing of the gaps and you see them breathing heavy, then yeah, you know they're giving it absolutely everything. But some of the time, when they're pushing out 4 watt kilos as they're doing at the moment, that is easy for, I'm saying easy, that's steady for these riders. That's not pushing themselves to the limit. But obviously on a stage this long, you can't push yourself to the limit. You have to temper your effort. But you often wonder if a rider like Henrik, you know, has got the advantage when that happens, when you're not absolutely pushing balls out. But having said that, John's testing him here. Look, he's pushing off the front and gapping Henrik only a small amount. But this is a testing time, because Henrik has to close these gaps. He can't allow John 20 meters because there's a very, very good chance he'd be gone. And the same goes for John with Henrik. John's not going to let Henrik get 20 meters on him either, because I think they'd just the gap would just open up. And it's very encouraging when you get a small gap on a rider that you're riding with, because it gives you that little bit of confidence. And sometimes it's all about confidence. It's not about how your legs feel, it's about how confident are you. This is a very interesting battle. So 14, almost 15 kilometers done at the moment of the 34. So we're getting close to the halfway point, but don't forget we started with about 5 kilometers of downhill. So I'm saying downhill or flat anyway. And so they've, I reckon, at least another hour of climbing here. Just to look back once more at the winning time from this morning, Jonty Williamson. That was a 1:35, give 5 seconds. So yeah, a 1:35. What are we? We're 35 minutes in now. So about another hour, give or take. I don't think Jonty's time is going to be beaten by very much. We might see a minute or so, but I don't think it's going to get smashed out of sight. Having said that, these two are, you know, 19 kilometers an hour, 18. That's a fast pace. As we look at both riders, and you tell me, folks, who looks the calmest here? Henrik's hiding it the best because he's blowing. Henrik's blowing, but he looks smooth. John, yeah, he's focused. Yeah, don't you love it? You know he's listening to me, so I wonder if can he see? Can you see Henrik, John? Can you see your competitors in the Zoom room? there you go, taking a drink. But look at Nick. Look at Nick, still out of the saddle, still pushing that huge gear. He makes me laugh here. We watch Daniel Neugebauer getting out of the saddle as well. Clive Byam always looks sort of like in control, doesn't he? Not very much rocking, he just looks in control. Yeah, sweating like everybody else, but he's not rocking and rolling like a lot of the others are. He just nice smooth cadence. And one of the things I'm noticing with Henrik is when he does want to make that push off the front, he gets out of the saddle to do it. So that's something to watch for as we go further into the stage, and will give us a good clue as to when his intention is to push the pace a little bit. Because almost every time I've seen him pushing off the front, he's jumped out the saddle to do so. But they're matching each other watt for watt at the moment. The riders behind, they've fallen further behind, and a couple have jumped off the front, like James and Schaefer's. Janssens, I think, with them. Watch Daniel Schock getting out of the saddle, and high 70s cadence. So that's a decent climbing cadence. And there he is on the road. Rocket Roy Neal. Now he's a bigger rider, so Roy's obviously improving his climbing over these stages. But there's some good riders in this group. It's just a shame they're not going to have a say in the top placings. They're basically fighting amongst themselves for the dare I say minor places. As we switch back to Franco here. Now I wonder if he's listening to music or he's listening to commentary. I've never been one for listening to music while working out. It's funny. Something I've done it outside on the road, but I've never been able to ride indoors to music. I prefer a podcast or commentary or something. So this is the halfway banner. The yellow banner, that signifies the halfway point. So it's not halfway up the climb, it's halfway through the stage. So they've still got a hell of a lot of climbing to go. Another 50 minutes, I reckon. And they're just matching each other stroke for stroke, really. They're both doing fair turns on the front, but they're matching each other stroke for stroke here. And I know for a fact that they've got the utmost respect for each other. So it's going to come down to the wire. I don't know. I just don't see John taking 2 minutes out of Henrik, but he could crack. And that'll be John's aim as we get further into the climb. And 2 minutes is very easily gained if one of the riders does crack. 2 minutes is nothing on this kind of a stage. You could very easily pull out that kind of a time gap if one of the riders cracks. So that's what we're gonna be looking for. We're gonna be looking for the main contenders to crack. There's Nick. How does he push? I mean, Yeah, even I'd be slightly higher cadence. And I just don't know how he does this. I mean, he's obviously in the big ring. And just, yeah, hi Nick, just churned in that gear. Fantastic. I am so impressed. Oh, excuse me. So that's the second group going under the banner. Now, what I said it's about it being very, very easy to pull out a 2-minute gap. That was almost 2 minutes. So already we've got almost 2 minutes between the front riders and these riders. So imagine what would happen if Henrik or John faltered and started to fall behind. We wouldn't need much distance to get that 2 minutes. Daniel rocking and rolling here, and it looks like he's in the middle of two groups at the moment, which is not a good place to be, but this is a climb, so you find, yeah, I'm not going to call it out here because on a climb like this you find your own comfort level and you don't care about what people around you are doing. Yes, you can use them as carrots visually to help you pull back a place, or you can use it as something like you go past somebody and you make sure that you keep the gap. So yeah, Daniel will just be settling into his own pace here, and you can see from the pain cave that's exactly what he's doing. He's hurting obviously, but he's just settling himself in. Anders Johnson looks very calm, very cool. Don't know what the throwing his arms down was all about. Perhaps he's not happy with the way his legs are feeling, but he certainly looks calm enough. He needs to, if you're listening Anders, you need to zoom your camera in a little bit so that we can see more of you, mate. But it's nice to see you in the Zoom room, and it's not the first time, so well done, sir. But he's obviously probably unhappy with his performance. That's why we saw that gesture from him. I don't know why, because I'd be more than happy to be doing what these folks are doing. But this group started to split, and then all of a sudden it looks like they're working again together. So, but they aren't going to close up on the leaders. You can clearly see we're looking at the white paddle now on the bottom of the screen, and you can see the white dot in front, and that gap has grown quite significantly. And these riders will know they're basically fighting for third place here. And we'll come back to that battle later on in the stage. Who's going to get the third place? Of the riders in this group, I would say James is definitely one of the riders to consider, if not the rider to consider for the third spot. But we'll see, it's early days yet. John Stevens, we haven't mentioned him much, but he's riding well, and he's not had a bad tour. Did he have a mechanical earlier on in the tour which sort of like put him out of the top spot? I think he did, and I know that Sanderson definitely did, one of his teammates. So sorry, Sanderson wasn't his teammate, my apologies. But yeah, Robin Sanderson was sort of like thrown out of his position in the tour because of he actually had two mechanicals or dropouts, whatever you want to call them, which basically ended his challenge for the tour placings. And I seem to remember that yeah, I think he did as well. So, but that's the look of the draw. You have to come back when you have issues like that. You have to try and come back and just do the best you can. Now, later on this evening, there's Anders. Later on this evening, we've got the last running of this stage, and that's going to be crucial because Casper Hedidam is riding in the evening session. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to cover it, but I will certainly be watching it after the event. I'll probably record it even. So yeah, that's going to be interesting as well, because Casper's, I think, lying in third place at the moment on the overall, but he's more than 7 minutes off the leaders, and however good a ride he puts in tonight, he's not going to pull back 7 minutes. Of that I can state categorically. As Paul Nichols talks about Clive Byam. Yeah, Clive's put in a good performance every round, Paul, and he's been a constant in the pain room, which is really nice as well. The total climb is just short of 2,000 meters, Robin. You take out that first 5 kilometers, which is obviously not climbing, but then I think the total climb is something like 1,900 meters. Like I say, it's a climb I've done virtually. I've definitely climbed it virtually in the past, and it basically stays around, I think it averages around the 7% mark, 6 or 7%, but it never goes below, I don't think it ever goes below 5% anywhere, or once you actually get on the climb, until you get to that top section where it levels off for the last sort of like 30 meters, I think, 20 meters. So yeah, this is what I was saying earlier, Robin, that I really feel for you, mate, because you were riding nicely, you were riding well, and it's hard to bear. It's hard to bear when you have technicals and it completely throws you. Now, what I was saying about we're going to see riders suffering, just look at Ben here. Sweat dripping down his face, and he looks like he's really suffering here. Poor lad. He's one of the bigger riders, he won't mind me saying this, is Ben. So he's suffering on this climb, trust me. He's not comfortable doing this. And the non-climbers today, this will be hell on wheels for them, because you know, when you're stuck on a stage like this, which is a pure climbing stage, for almost 2 hours. We watch Franco taking another bite of his banana, but yeah, when you're a non-climber stuck on this kind of a stage, almost 2 hours of climbing, that is really, really painful. Oh, this is lovely to see. I didn't even know if Chris was riding this stage. Nice to see you, Chris. I'm sure you're listening to the broadcast. So yeah, and Chris is more of a time trialist. He's an ex-triathlete, and yeah, he's more of a TT type of rider. Lovely cadence, mid-80s, and he's a big lad, so this will be hurting Chris as well. But I assume he likes climbing. He seems to go reasonably well on these kind of stages. I say like, I mean, if there's any non-climber like 2 hours of climbing. You can see that already, what I was saying earlier, Robin, you can see that they're already at 1,000 meters climbed, and what are we? We're about we're just over halfway up the climb. So like I say, it's 1,900 meters of ascent is the climb itself. And the route on a whole is just under 2,000 meters. by a few meters. There's Clive blowing. But you're looking good, Clive. You're looking good, mate. It's nice to see him. Like I say, Clive has been a constant. It's been fantastic to see him in the pain room every day. I love it when riders are not afraid to show off the suffering, and also it's verification for the performances as well, which is equally as important. Now look at these two riders. John licking his lips there, but yeah, working hard. Henrik looking comfortable. Out of the saddle to get back onto John's wheel, and this is a constant now that I'm noticing with Henrik. So I'm going to keep a close eye on this dynamic as we get towards the top part of this climb. Is Henrik working at full gas later in the stage? I mean, we can see John, mouth open, breathing heavy. So he's definitely trying to push Henrik here and see what he's got. And Henrik is blowing. He's trying to stay calm, trying to look. Yeah, here we go. Look out of the saddle again to try and stay with John. So interesting dynamic. I'm really looking forward to watching that as we go further into the stage. But the most important thing to mention here, folks, and I don't know whether you've picked up on it, look at the gap now. Okay, so James Melville, who is somebody that I called out earlier and said maybe James would take the third spot, James Melville is pulling them back. He's actually closing up this gap. And I did say that any rider that could find his legs and then go in the second half of the climb did have the opportunity to close up, and that's exactly what we're seeing on the road. Now the gap is sort of like pegged. It's not, you know, when I say it's closing, it's not coming down, and in fact it's just gone up a few meters, but they've closed it down from it was almost out to 900 meters, and so they've pulled back a significant amount. And I think this is not over yet. I don't think we'll see Henrik and John actually caught, but I do think we're going to see a few riders having a say in the third, fourth and fifth spot. And James Melville could well be wanting to claim that third spot on the podium. So I think it's a battle between him and Casper for that third spot. I could be wrong. Maybe I need to go away and have a look at that a bit later. Or maybe I wonder, Damon, could we just quickly have a look at the overall standings again? Just let me have a look at the time gaps. Thank you very much. Oh, I love Damon. I mean, how cool is that? Yeah, you've got. In fact, I'm wrong, folks. James is down in 9th spot, so he's got a long way to make up. Now he could pull back a minute or two today, but no, my apologies. I'm glad you've pulled this up for me, Damon, because I was thinking it was Casper and James, but it's not. It's Casper and Joris that are fighting for the third spot. In fact, and Jan Linden as well. So we got 3 riders there fighting for that third spot, and they're all 3 towards the front end of this race. So yeah, interesting. Schaefer certainly is up there. You can see he's currently in 6th spot, but Jan Linden is there as well somewhere. I think he's amongst that group. But James Melville is a class act and could possibly claw back a couple of minutes today. It will be very interesting, as Damon's just messaged me, so let's have a look. Yeah, okay, Damon, no problem. I love it when, and that shows how professional this broadcast is, folks, because there you saw me just mention and call out to the background team, Damon, asking if he could pull up the main standings, and within seconds it was up on screen. So it really helps as a commentator when you're working so well together in these broadcasts. It really is a big help, because I was convinced that it was Casper and James Melville that were fighting for third, and of course I was wrong, because to my detriment, shall we say, I haven't been able to keep as close an eye on this tour, the overall standings, as I would normally. It's been tough enough just coming along and doing the broadcasts. I just haven't physically had the time to spend going through the forums and digging out all the results on a regular basis like I normally would. Usually what happens is when I finish the broadcast, I'm back to my family, back to the children, playing with them. I was blowing bubbles with my youngest this morning, playing, because I told them that I'm going to be upstairs in the attic for a good 4 hours, I think, today. You know, I get on 30 minutes before the broadcast starts, and then I'll be here for a good while after it finishes. So about 4 hours in the attic. That's a long time on a weekend to be away from the kids. But no doubt I will go and play with them when we've watched this. So Henrik is leading out the charge at the moment with 10 kilometers to go. So we're getting towards the top end of the climb, but you know, 10 kilometers, we're still looking at 30 minutes plus. And what we got, 58 minutes, so maybe a little bit less, but I think at least another 30 minutes. So we'll get a better idea of the time gaps when we get into the last 5 or 6 kilometers. Both grimacing, they'll both be feeling this now. John putting in a bit of an effort, Henrik getting out of the saddle once again to match him. And there we go, you see, Henrik now gives it a bit of a push. Out of the saddle effort. John breathing heavy to get on into his wheel, make sure he's not left behind. Really keeping an eye on each other. This is great racing. As we look a little bit further back, and we can see that Peter is now being dropped from that small group. So might get back on. But yeah, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6 riders that are going to fight out for third place. In fact, even less, because I just looking at these riders here, Daniel pulling Isafor along. So yeah, we've got less than 6 riders fighting it out for third spot, I think. Or have we? Shapers is up there, and he needs to be. Currently sitting in third place on the general classification, with Casper going this evening, going to want to try and catch him. So Shapers has got a minute on Casper, so he'll be wanting a good finish today. Daniel Schock a little bit further down the field, so he'll be fighting for his place as well. And that's the great thing again about these ZMS live streams. We can call out the results almost, well, not almost, we call out the results immediately. What you see going over the line is what appears up on screen within seconds. So we can have a look at the overall and the what's happening on the GC almost as soon as the riders cross the line. Excuse me. Another thumbs up. Working hard. 13th place for Franco's here, so realistically, can he get a top 10? That's going to be a tough ask. Let's see if he can manage it, but that's going to be a tough ask to catch the riders in front. And quite often you get into this kind of a stage and you settle into what for you is a comfortable, I'm saying, if you can call this comfortable, what's a comfortable pace, and your general aim is not so much to catch other riders or drop other riders, but to maintain what you've got once you find that comfortable pace. Now Linden, Jan Linden, he was high on the leaderboard, but he's going to drop down from this performance today. And that's no disrespect, but that's just what's going to happen. He's going to lose one of his placings definitely on the GC with this ride today, because we are looking at minutes now separating these groups. Certainly these lads up front are a good 2 minutes in front of the riders behind, so Daniel really working hard here and grimacing. It's lovely to see, but you feel for them. Well, I do, because I used to love climbing. These days I just haven't got the fitness for it, but I really did. I used to love climbing on a bike. There's Nick, still pushing around that huge gear. Look at that, 48. Just pushing around that big gear. I mean, how many of you would want to do this climb in the big ring like Nick's doing here? You know, I probably bet he hasn't even got a middle or a small ring on his bike. He's probably just got the one big gear. John and Henrik constantly swapping leads out the front. And an hour and 4 in, so probably another 30 minutes for our leaders. 1,311 metres climbed. Now this is just brutal. They have actually increased the lead. I said it was down to 600 and a few metres. It's now 800 metres. So they have once again pulled the gap out back to what it was earlier. So although they were pulled in slightly, I did say I didn't think they'd get caught, and once again, as they battle it out between themselves, you know that the pace is going to go up, and they're going to start to gap the riders behind. Beautiful riding from both these riders, and you can't discount these riders behind. I mean, they're not going to catch them, are they? Although they've just clawed back 20 odd metres here, James and is it Kevin Savello? So they've just clawed back 20 metres, but yeah, no, they're not going to do it, and that's really sad. However, they have pulled out 330 metres on this small group behind, so perhaps now it's between James and Kevin Savello for that third spot, and that will be an interesting battle, and we'll definitely cover that as we come into the finish, because I suspect those two will want to stay together and then fight it out at the very end of the stage. And we're on Tony Simmons. Now, he always puts in a good ride. Currently managing to stay in front of Iker and his own teammate Keith, the OTR veteran. The big surprise for me today is Lyndon from Poco. Maybe he's just not feeling at his best today, but he will have dropped down the order. But maybe he's just not happy with this kind of a stage, a true climbing stage. Probably more suited to rolling stages. I mean, Daniel's doing really well to stay in the top 20, given that he's definitely a rider for the rolling stages. Nick Greenhouse, I'm just amazed by this rider. He's always near the top end, but there's no way that I mean, he's wearing the sprinters jersey. There's no way you can class Nick Greenhouse as a climber of any kind, and yet he's always there and thereabouts, the top 20. Wonderful riding, and I think if he works on his climbing, there's no reason why he can't become a Grand Tour contender, as well as taking the sprint stages in the future. Yeah, I mean, Samir's done a wonderful job here, Paul, with these Tour de Monde. The roads have been very, very smooth. I haven't seen any glitches on the corners like you sometimes get. You know, you're sometimes following these races, you can see the odd glitch on the corners as they go around the steep bends in the mountains. But this has just been so smooth, and I'm sure the riders appreciate it as well, because there's been no glitches that I've seen. So yeah, top marks to Samir. Anyway, while there's this little, there's Robin again, but while there's this little lull in the action, if my colleague Damon is listening, can we pull up the prize door, Damon, and we'll tell them all about how they can win £100, because there's only a couple of stages left now, tonight's running of this stage. So here we go, folks. This is your chance. If you haven't ridden a stage of the Tour de Monde yet, you've got this evening, and then you've got 4 time slots tomorrow as your last chance to take part in the prize giveaway. You can win £100 for doing nothing more than riding a stage. I'm going to take part tomorrow. If I can get over this, I've just had my booster jab, so if I feel up to it, I'm going to ride tomorrow and put myself in the draw. But that's all you have to do, ride any stage. So tonight, or any of tomorrow's 4 stages, they go off at 12 o'clock, at midnight, at 12 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, and at 18:45 tomorrow evening. Ride the full stage, and then you get randomly stuck into the draw, and that will be drawn after the final stage tomorrow. Keith Aitchison will use his spinning wheel, and we'll announce the winner probably sometime tomorrow evening. That will be on the Facebook forum pages, and in particular the RGT community news page. So give it a shot, put yourself in with a chance of winning that prize. Okay, back to the action. Not much has happened here. You can see Henrik and John still duking it out at the front, still matching each other stroke for stroke here. They're very, very evenly matched, these two, and they have been so throughout the tour, to be fair to them both. They've been very evenly matched. I think it's fair to say Henrik had the definite advantage on the earlier part of the climbing stages, but John has really come into his own in the second half of this tour with his climbing prowess, and I think he's going to go from strength to strength after this tour. I'd fully expect him to be challenging for any tour that he takes part in, with a really good shot at taking the overall. Well, he has today. I mean, he's got to try and claw back 2 minutes over these next 2 days, today and tomorrow. Tough ask. I'm not sure he's going to do it, but there's still time and there's still anything can happen. So here we're seeing James and it's either Christine or Kevin. I think it's Kevin Cervello fighting out for third spot, and much the same as we're watching Henrik and John at the front staying together. It's Kevin, I thought it was. So much the same as we're watching the two leaders, I think these two will stay together pretty much until the final few meters of this stage, and then fight it out. I don't see one of them dropping the other. Having said that, James will probably shoot off now and do so, but no, I do think these two are very evenly matched as well, and that they will stay together. We saw a lot of James. I covered last year's Tour de Monde, and Kevin must be listening to me because he's decided to have a dig. Now James won't panic. James will just simply settle in, and there's plenty of opportunity to do that. He can allow Kevin a little bit of leeway, not too much. Doesn't want to let it go over 20 meters. So my guess is James will start to up his cadence a little bit now and try and pull him back. Yeah, it's gone just over 20 odd meters, so he needs to pull him back now, otherwise Kevin's gone. On a climb like this, I always sort of like reckon that a 20-meter gap is going to be very difficult to pull back. Lovely high cadence here. Looks very, very smooth. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Kevin is a out-and-out climber. Just looking at the way that he looks on the bike here. Beautiful high cadence of 98. Keeping his heart rate under control as well. You know, 160 now. I don't know what his max is, but I guess his max may well be much higher than this. So he'll be in his comfort zone here. Yeah, occasionally he's dipping into the red, but he'll be comfortable. This will be feeling nice at such a high cadence. And he's doing a good job. He's pulling out a good lead. So he's got 60 meters at the moment, so it's gone from the 20 that I said needed to be chased down to 60 now, and that's dangerous. That's the kind of distance where you may well not be able to pull that back. I usually say when it gets out to 20 meters you need to start closing it down, otherwise you're possibly going to find you're not going to be able to pull back the rider in front on a climb of this. Now you can see the live leaderboard. So we've got John Beams, Henrik, Kevin, James Melville, Janssens, Shapers. Shapers is obviously fighting for his third place overall. So he's in 7th at the moment, but he needs to maybe try and pull back a couple of places. Now I think he's riding with Roy Neild, Janssens at the moment in a small group. And if he is, he needs to make sure he finishes in front as first man in that small group. We'll get a look very shortly as we watch Tony Simmons. Tony's pulled a few places back here and doing a really good ride. I mean, look at these hairpins, aren't they beautiful? What a fantastic... Just look at those hairpins, beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful view, Julian. Absolutely stunning. Wonderful route you've done here, Samir. Top marks, mate. I mean, all I had was, when I rode it, was a GPX file. Didn't have any of this scenery. Beautiful scenery. So back with Daniel. And again, just purely and simply be settling into his own rhythm from cadence and effort here. Now this is they're still on the slopes here, but they are going to they are approaching one of the very few sections where it eases very slightly. And I say eases slightly, you can see it's kicking up at the moment, but then it dips back down to around about the 5% mark, I think, as I seem to remember. But we're not going to see any difference here between these two riders, I think. There we go. So you can see it dropped back down to about the 5% mark there, and just in front of them there's another section where it does that. It never gets really steep, this climb. It's more about the constant gradient, which I'm pretty sure is around about the 7% overall mark. Might even be less. It might even be less, but it never gets really steep, and it never sort of like goes much below the 6% mark. So there's the odd kicker here, and as you can see, it's 8 at the moment. But there's the odd kicking section, but it only lasts for a few meters. There's nothing goes on for a long period of time at the steeper grades. So this is a true, you know, one for the climber that can settle into a lovely pace. And Robin Sanderson asked earlier, would you work by heart rate or would you work by power? Well, both would suit this kind of a stage. I think heart rate suits it better, keeping an eye on your heart rate and then seeing what power you can do over these undulations. But it's that kind of a stage. It's the kind of a stage where you choose to ride it at a set heart rate or a set watt kilo output. I mean, they mostly climb this in the in and around the 4 watt kilo mark, occasionally dipping below and occasionally dipping above. So I don't think either of them have really pushed the boat out. I think they will. Now this is the section that I told you about where it just eases off, look. And it eases off slightly here, only for a few meters. There you go, you see it coming back up again now. Only for a few meters, and then very quickly we return to the 6+%. But it's enough of an opportunity for a rider like John, who's you know, to try and push. But Henrika's, yeah, he's just riding this so well. Well, they both are. Out of the saddle, and I guess he's out of the saddle in the pain room as well, because we've seen him doing that when he's trying to close up on John's wheel. Now if John is going to make a break, it's around about here that he needs to do so, because time's running out now. And if there's anything left, he's really got to bury himself to the end. But I don't really see it happening. I'm not going to call it out because I don't see that happening. These two are so evenly matched, I expect them to come into the finish together. Maybe a slight gap between them at the very death. But I genuinely believe these two are so evenly matched, they're going to finish more or less together. And I don't think either of them will be unhappy with that. I mean, obviously John would like the time back, but I think even he knows in his heart he's not going to pull 2 minutes back on the rider of Henrik's class. Wouldn't it be exciting if he did, though? If he did. I mean, tomorrow's stage is going to be, I think, another close stage, because it's down as a hilly stage, but it's more, yeah, there's a steep climb at the end, but it's more for the bigger riders, for the power riders, than it is for the climbers. So I think this is the last stage where you have any real chance of pulling out significant time gaps. And they're going to pull out a decent time gap over third and fourth place. And riders lower down, 1.6 kilometres now to majority of the field behind them, with two riders, Kevin and James Melville, in between. And Kevin looks like he's distanced James Melville. So I was hoping James would claw his way back up into third place. But that's not going to happen, I don't think, because he's currently about 400 metres behind Kevin. And at this stage, that's probably asking a little bit too much as well. I mean, you never know. James has got a hell of a kick and guts on him, so yeah, you just don't know. So back to the pain room, and John is still eating, so he's still chomping on whatever it is he's got there, putting energy in for this last push. Look at Nick, struggling to get that gear around. Franco, he's just rocking and rolling as well. He could be really hurting now. The only rider that looks comfortable here is Clive Byam. I mean, Daniel's rocking and rolling as well, Daniel Shock. Ben Phillips, Ben looks like he's saying, please, please God, let it be over. Oh, you feel for them. I mean, John's attic looks similar to mine with the wooden beams, as does Clive's. Yeah, wooden beams in the roof and panels. It's very cold up here. I'm actually wearing 3 jumpers at the, well, 3 layers at the moment, 4 layers, sorry, at the moment, because it's really cold up here in the attic. So when I'm actually riding, I only need one fan in the middle of winter, whereas when the weather gets warmer, I need 4 or 5. Yeah, staying cool. And I've even got an air cooler up here for the summer, because it would be impossible to ride. So it gets really cold in the winter and really hot in the summer. So Kevin has cemented his third place here. Doesn't look like he's going to get caught by James. Henrik and John are just pacing each other. I don't see that changing, and we're getting what? We're getting very close to the finish now. So if either John, or in fact John, just as I say that, John has a push. Now, is this an effort? Is this an effort to get away? Let's have a look. It's got 10 metres. Can he stretch it, or is Henrik going to get back on his wheel? John's really trying here. But Henrik is saying, sorry, I'm not going to let you. He's not even giving him the luxury of a few seconds. I mean, how brutal is that? Henrik could afford to sit up here and just roll into the finish. And yet he's such a proud man. You know, he's not going to give John this. In fact, Henrik is probably thinking, I'll take the stage as well. What an excellent way to finish off my tour. And I'm sure John will have a say in that, but who's your money on? Who's your money on? Who looks the most comfortable? I don't know. I'm not going to call it because they both work so well here. I mean, my heart says John, but my brain says Henrik probably going to take it. But this is just wonderful. I mean, they both want to do so well. They're both side by side, just wonderful racing. Yeah, Kenneth, well, I don't think either rider can attack the other because they're just so evenly matched. I mean, you saw John, that was a definite try to get away. Believe me, when he got that 10 metres, that was a definite effort to try and pull away. But it's not going to happen. And somebody else has already pointed out, we've got 1 kilometre to go. So we're looking at possibly, what speed they're doing. We're looking at just over a minute and they're already at 1:29. So they're going to totally obliterate the time from earlier, which was a 1:35, well, 1:34.55. So they're going to I mean, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect it to be so fast. Yes, I thought they would take a minute or so off it, but to take 5 minutes is just incredible. Wonderful riding from these two riders. And I think they should both be, well, I don't think, I know, they'll both be very proud of the performances in this tour. This is just wonderful. But who's going to take the win? Now it does level off just in a few meters. You can see them just coming to the top of the mountain, and then there's a few meters, and it is only a few meters of flat, if not even slightly downhill. So whoever gets to the top first is going to take the win. They're not going to get caught on that section. So if Henrik can hold John off and crest the top here, he will take the win. But if John can pull up alongside him, then he's got to be favourite. Because John is without a doubt the better of the two riders when it comes to rolling or flat terrain. Here we go. Here we go. Can John stay on his wheel? Can he stay with him? Or is Henrik going to kick again? Coming to the top now. They're coming to the very top of the ride. The mountain. Henrik just a half wheel in front. John just taking over. Now, I think John will get this. I think he'll take this. We're just coming. You can see it's just round this next bend. Then it levels off. Oh, maybe Henrik has got the advantage here. I don't know. You can't call it, folks. It's not fair to do so. It's just wonderful riding. No quarter given. Henrik going into the red. John pushing into the red as well. Over 5.9 watt kilos. Look at Henrik, mouth open, pushing that gear round. Big gear. Just pushing it round. John rocking and rolling, grimacing with the pain. This is hurting. This is definitely hurting. Now, who's going to hurt the most and who's going to get it? Henrik back out of the saddle again. John's going. Come on, John. I don't have favourite, folks, but yeah, like I say, my heart says I want John to take this stage because he's not going to get the overall, so this would be a good way to finish the tour. Come on. Come on, John. Swing past him in the last 100 metres. There you go. I said John would have the advantage if he can get near the front in the last. There we go. Well done, John. Fantastic stage. Absolutely brilliant, mate. And you can see, now this, folks, is why we like the paint cams. Look at them both. There's no hiding here. There's no sort of like question that they've both given absolutely everything. And that's why I like it. That's why we love the paint cams. We want to see this on screen. Fantastic race, John. Well done, mate. Fantastic race, Henrik. You deserve a beer if that's a beer. Definitely. Oh, fantastic. Very, very well done. Now, remember what I was saying about at least a couple of minutes, folks? They've taken a couple of minutes on the riders behind, which is why watching them duke it out together and staying side by side was so important, because they both knew that they couldn't allow, you know, 800 meters on the other rider, so they had to stay together, because 2 minutes is nothing. In fact, it's going to be more than 2 minutes back to third place here, which is pretty impressive and shows, you know, it's not unfair to say that John and Henrik are a class above the rest of the field in this tour. In the next tour, that can change, but in this tour, they're just, you know, they're just a level above. Superb race. 300 meters for Kevin coming in. 200 meters now. And around about the 3 minute mark, I believe. So Kevin gets a good third place. Well done, mate. And then James will have to settle for fourth. He's not going to get caught, isn't James? So James is going to get his fourth place. Kevin gets third. Here's James on the road. And he's going to be a further minute back, if not a little bit more. Because this is a tough finish. It goes up to 9% plus towards the end. Not for long, but just enough to make it really hurt. The legs will be screaming. There you go, 11. Look, see how it kicks up right at the very death. Only for a few meters, but that's going to hurt. 13% in fact. Is it going to go even higher? I don't remember it being this difficult at the end, but yeah, time's a wonderful thing. 15%. So really, really painful at the end. The legs will be screaming. Lactic acid will absolutely be burning the muscles. Some riders will suffer cramp at this point if they haven't taken in enough fluid. There you go, look, even higher, 16%. And then this last kick around this bend, and it's over. There you go. Just onto the plateau, onto the top. You only get about 200 meters of flat at the top here, as you can see. 200 and, yeah, it's not quite. By the time he gets to that banner, it's going to be about 200 meters. There you go. Brutal stage, so well done. And every rider that finishes today deserves a bloody medal, because yeah, I think our Lantern Rouges are going to be over the 2 hour mark. So we're going to be hanging around for a little while yet, watching the riders coming in. it looks like Yepsneva could be battling with Rocket Roy Neild for the 5th spot, although he's got a 20-metre gap. Now, as you've heard me say previously, I reckon 20 metres is the sweet spot, where if you manage to keep your effort going nicely, you're not going to get caught. But having said that, there's a lot of riders that have something left at the top of a climb like this, and so they give it absolutely everything. Can Rocket Roy do that? I would say no. I would say that Yepsneva is going to claim 5th place here. So 6 left in the pain room. Here we go, 250 metres to go, so almost at the finish. And he's even pulled out his gap, look, so he can cruise in now, nice and steady. There's going to be a few battles behind because there are a few riders very close together. So, excuse me. I need to blow my nose. Okay, so John Stevens, who was riding really well in the mid part of this tour, well, still riding well, but fallen away a little bit. But this is a good ride. Well done, John. Peter Buck-Vavel, and Janssen's just going to get him on the line. So 9th place for Peter, 8th for Janssen's. And this is Shapers. Now Shapers is in 3rd overall. He managed to, from when I called him out earlier, he has managed to claw his way up the standings a little bit. So he's finished 10th. I don't know where that's going to leave him on the overall though. I suspect he might have lost a little bit of time today. We shall see. I mean, look at the time gaps. You're looking at 2 minutes to 3rd, as I said, and then 4 minutes to 4th. So some big time gaps here, folks. For example, we're going to have at least 6.5 minutes to the 3rd place rider overall. And that's significant because if Casper gets a similar time to our leaders tonight, he's going to jump into 3rd place on the podium. And I don't think tomorrow's stage is going to lend any help to riders in gaining time back. A few seconds maybe, but definitely not minutes as we've seen today. Today was the big stage. Today's the stage that has really sorted out the general classification. We've still got this evening's ride to go, so we don't know what the GC is going to be yet. I'm a little bit disappointed, and I'm not saying this, I'm not knocking Casper, don't get me wrong, at all. But I would have liked to have seen him ride with this group today. And then we would have had a clear picture of the overall. Maybe it's more exciting the fact that he didn't ride this stage at lunchtime and he's going tonight, because that's going to lend some credence to the evening running of the session without any doubt at all. And I'm sure the likes of John and Henrik are going to be keeping an eye on Casper's performance tonight to watch how close he gets, or whether he actually overhauls their time. I don't think he'll overhaul their time. I just think it's phenomenal what they've managed to achieve on this ride today, so we shall see. Fantastic win by John Beams, just stunning. As we watch Keith, the veteran from OTR, and Keith's always been there near the top 10, hasn't he? Sondergaard looks like he's going to try and get him on the line. Yep, Sondergaard just comes past him. But to be fair to Keith, Keith's been there and thereabouts, and He's put in a really good performance this tour. I've watched Reed from Pedalers. He's put in a good tour as well. Don't know exactly where he is on GC, but I know he's up there. And then Daniel Neugebauer, he'll be glad. Look at him. He'll be glad to have finished. Head down. Thank God that's over, he'll be saying. Daniel Shock. Same for him, he'll be glad it's all over. Yeah, there you go, look. Breathing heavy, putting an effort towards the end. Just look at that. This is why we love the paint cams, folks. Well done, Daniel. This is why we love it. There's no hiding place. Gasping still. Look. You can't make this stuff up, folks. It's pure effort that you see in here, and pure pain as well. As we watch Paul Newton from 3R. So the majority of the riders in the Zoom room are over the line now. Still a few more to come. We've still got Nick, Franco, Clive. Here's Nick. Now Nick's dropped an odd place here, but this is still a fantastic effort for a non-climber. I mean, how pleased would you be if you finished like in the low 20s on a pure climbing stage like this, if you're a sprinter, with that beautiful blue jersey on his shoulders, the sprinter's jersey. I'd be very proud. Solly, come on, don't keep it going. Let's not see you have a dropout so close to the finish, Solly. And this is another rider that we've seen a lot of this race from Rasio, and he's done well. He's always been up there again in the top half of the draw. It's nice to watch these riders a bit lower down the field putting in good performances, because it's not always about, I mean, what more can I say about Nick? But it's not always about the riders that finish at the front, although for me today's stage was just absolutely phenomenal. One of the best stages I've ever commentated on. In terms of the quality of racing and the effort that the riders put in, you only have to go back. And for those of you that can do so, when this stage is finished, yes, well done Nick, well done mate, look at the pain and effort there. When this stage is finished, go back and watch this video again and just look at the pain of the riders upon finishing. And that tells you everything. That tells you how much effort they've put into this. Because it's brutal. It's been brutal and it's been fantastic to watch. Very exciting. And here's Franco coming in. Good ride, sir. So back to the American McCollum. And that's Parks behind him. So we've got a lot of riders still to come in. We had 95 riders at my last count. I don't know how many more we've got to come in now, but I suspect we've got a good number, probably another 60 riders to come in. So we're going to be knocking around for quite a while yet. And what we usually do while we're watching the riders a bit further down the field coming in, we're not going to switch now because there's too many riders close to the finish, but as we get down further the field and we've got more or bigger time gaps to riders coming into the finish, we will pull up tomorrow's stage for you, and we will also do what Damon's doing here, and that's show you the overall. So you can see big time gaps here. I mean, between first and 11th you got 7.5 minutes, so that's huge, and that's why I said this would be the stage that decided the overall, without a doubt. Matthias Fishback says congratulations to John Beam, and I echo that. Superb. Christoph Contant says well done to them both. I mean, Henrik put in a fantastic ride. Stuart Little. Scott David Money says go Stuart Little. But this has been a very, very good Queen stage for me. Yeah, and James has nailed it here. Chapeau to John and Henrik on absolutely pushing this tour. They really have given us a fantastic tour. Yeah, and the two Daniels, Daniel Schock and Daniel Neugebauer, they've had a good battle. And here you can see Greg Barnett on screen. Now he'll be looking forward to tomorrow's stage, I imagine, if he can recover his legs, because tomorrow's stage will suit him more. This stage, Greg's a bigger rider. Won't have really enjoyed today's stage, I imagine, along with a lot of other riders. You know, but tomorrow's stage will suit the bigger or the power riders, the all-round riders. It's classed as a hilly stage, but in truth there's a lot of flat in tomorrow's stage, and we will have a look at the graphic for it pretty soon actually, as we go lower down the field here. But some stunning performances here from everybody. I mean, like I say, I take my hat off to all the riders that finish this stage. And especially the riders that are going to come in over 2 hours behind. I mean, not behind, sorry, the riders that are going to take over 2 hours. That's a long time to be on an indoor bike when you've seen the finishers wrap it up and go and have a shower. So we're almost at the 30 riders into the finish mark. But as I say, we've got a lot more to go. I can hear my children shouting in the background, so I'm looking forward to getting back to them when we finish the broadcast. Mum will be having a hard time at the moment. But Richard Dowling. Okay, so let's have a look at a few of the time gaps now, if we can, and let's see where we are in terms of riders left to come in, and see if we can calculate how far behind the riders at the back end of the tour are doing. I'm very gumped up, so Okay, so Damon's just telling me we're going to have to wrap this up on the hour because we have the Echelon Pro Series in 2 hours time. So I'm sorry folks, but we're not going to be able to stay with this to the end. So I'll wait for Damon to give me the nod. Now when you say wrap up on the hour, do you mean on the 2 hour mark overall, Damon, or do you mean I mean, I don't know what the time is now. 8 minutes to go. Yeah, 8 minutes. So yeah, so we've basically got another 7.5 minutes, folks. Here's Ben. I mean, just look at the poor lad. That hurt. There's no way you can hide. That hurt. Well done, Ben. As we're watching a few riders now very close together coming into the finish, so we didn't catch them all going over the line. Paul Austin, has he actually got to the finish here? It looks like he stopped just before the line. I don't know whether this is a glitch in the software or whether he has actually crossed the line here. It looks like he hasn't. We'll soon know because we'll see Murtaugh here, and if Murtaugh goes past him, and it looks like he's going to do, then it means that Austin for some reason has stopped before the line, which is not a good sign, sadly. We watch Murtaugh from 3R going in. Don't know what's the problem with Austin. This is Chris O'Hearn. It's nice to see Chris racing in one of the stages. Sonderby coming in. But I'm really hoping that that Austin can get over the finish line. Don't know what the issue is. Yeah, let's pull the map up, Damon, and show folks tomorrow's stage, because this is not really going to have any effect on the overall. It's called a hilly stage, but you can clearly see the first part of the route in particular is rolling. That's going to suit the bigger power riders. Then you drop down there to the coastline, and then yes, you've got a very steep climb up to the finish, but it is only short. So I don't think tomorrow is going to see large time gaps like we've seen today. Definitely not. Or even, you know, I think you're only going to be looking at seconds between the top 20 riders. So no overall change in the tour tomorrow. The sprinter stage could be interesting because there's bonus points on offer. So yes, there could be a swap around in some of the minor places in the sprinters. But I think Nick Greenhouse has got the sprinter's jersey firmly on his shoulders. Don't see him getting caught. Yeah, tomorrow should be a nice stage. I'm gonna try and ride it. I'm covering tomorrow's lunchtime slot again with ZMS and Damon, but I'm going to try and ride it tomorrow evening. We shall see, because I want to get myself entered into the prize draw as we watch Cavelius here coming into the finish, the German rider. And we're going to wrap it up, folks, in about 4 minutes time. So thanks everybody for sticking with us. I'm very sorry that we can't stay to the end. We usually do, so cut us a bit of slack, the fact that we're cutting away to the end. And we'll see you tomorrow. Here's Clive coming in, so we might just have time to watch Clive finish off, although no, we're not going to be able to watch Clive. Sorry Clive, we're not going to be able to get you into the finish, mate. Damon has to go. Yeah, he's giving us a wave. You know as well as I do, Clive, we would normally stay with you, but Damon's got another broadcast in 2 hours time. I've got to really get back to my family. I mean, I've spent the majority of the day here in the attic, So yeah, but very well done all the riders. I don't know if you can do so, Damon. Can we just, before we leave, can we show the riders right at the very back of the field? Let's see who our Lantern Rouges are. I'd like to see how Annie's doing. So if after we've watched these two coming over the line, we can just cut back to the tail end, that would probably be nice to see. Here we go. So we're looking at the tail end of the race here, folks, and we've got Liendo here. He's currently Lantern Rouge, and you can see this lad has got 14 kilometers to go. So we'd be around an awful long time waiting for Liendo to come in. And that's no disrespect to Liendo or Stephen here, who's got 9.6 kilometers to go. Greener 9.3. So it's not really fair to try and hang around for these riders when we've got another broadcast in a couple of hours. There's Anne. It's nice to see Anne still going, but 8 kilometers to go. So, you know, you're looking at a good length of time before these riders come in. I hope they all manage to keep it going. That would be lovely if they can. We're giving them a bit of a shout out here as you watch How Y, the other half of the Y partnership, racing together. They're always together in these stages, which is really nice to see. Villeneuve, Canoe, Mr. Canoe. He must be struggling because he was further up the order a bit earlier on. Jo Dulce, now she's high up on the ladies podium, so she's doing some good riding. Here's Clive from OTR. Now you could see when Clive gave us that wave in the pain cave, Clive was suffering. I mean, he's a big lad, won't mind me saying that. Very, very good rider, but he won't have enjoyed this kind of a stage, I don't think. It's not his cup of tea. You know, 2 hours and more of solid climbing is no fun if you're not a climber. Here's Adrian Bennett from OTR, and again, Adrian, not really an out-and-out climber, so he won't have enjoyed it either. Soderberg is more of an all-round rider. Mike Aid, I think we could class him as the same, but again, I really think that this stage is a specialist stage, and a few of the riders won't have really been happy today. I don't think I'm calling anything out there that's not true. But some really good performances. Top marks to Henrik and John. And we're going to call it a day there, folks. We're going to wrap this broadcast up and call it a day. We'll have the ads to finish. But take care, everybody. Stay safe. And we will see you tomorrow at lunchtime for the next ZMS broadcast by myself. Obviously ZMS are back this evening with the Pro Series. So that's it, as we watch Newnham coming over the line. He's going to be the last rider, and I'll say bye for now.